Welcome to GolfCast Original Series, The Blend. Perfect for golf and whiskey enthusiasts alike. Welcome to this special episode of The Blend. We are going to attack one of the biggest subject matters in the golf world, the fact that it's just hard to watch. And we're going to fix that today because I have put a whopping hour of thought into this, and I think I fixed it. So before we get into the fix, Garrett McShay, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks, Brian. Just came back from Donegal, that's Northwest Ireland, for those of you who aren't familiar with our geography. Absolutely belter of a morning. I was lucky enough to spend a couple of hours suitably frustrating myself with some ill-designed sticks and spheres around a rather beautiful field called Donegal Golf Club. You know, I can safely confirm I'm still not very good at golf, but I enjoy it, right? I get that odd little nugget of a shot, which teases me and makes me think I'm ever closer to figuring out the puzzle that is golf. But no, joking aside, I had 2.5 hours down there. It was beautiful. It was heavenly. And back in Dublin, as I just arrived back to Dublin, Donegal, Gaelic football team, folks. If you haven't seen Gaelic football, look it up on YouTube. If you haven't seen hurling, Hurling, look it up on YouTube. That's our national sports. We were playing our provincial final, which would be the Ulster final, against one of our old nemesis, Armagh. Level after 70 minutes of normal play. Level after 20 minutes of extra time. Level after the first 5 penalties, which we don't normally use in Gaelic, but the schedule has been tightened up a wee bit, so they have to get the games completed. Yeah. Donegal score their 6th penalty. Armagh miss their 6th penalty. So, Brian, I'm actually doing really well here. Thanks very much.
Town went nuts, didn't it?
So yeah, I'm doing awesome. Good, thanks.
And you have a special guest with you today.
I have brought, I have already poured. It's a miniature. It's the Irishman St. Lucia rum barrel. I've actually never had this. It reads great. Obviously, it's going to tell us it's a delicious Irish whiskey, tropical fruits, vibrant spices, the marriage of St. Lucian character and Irish heritage.
Nice.
So whoever's in the marketing department needs a rise right there. Great job, whoever you are.
They do a spectacular job. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I'll give you a funny story before we dive into here to how to make the PGA watchable again.
Yes.
We were outside. It was a beautiful day here in Virginia yesterday. We're outside. This car comes driving up in the driveway. I think it's an Amazon delivery because sometimes they're in personal cars. And come to find out, it was my neighbor that we've lived here for 8 or 9 years. We've never talked to them. They're different. Well, yeah, she rolls up into she rolls up into my driveway, and one of the guys around the corner was picking up firewood and debris off the road and has a burn pile and stuff. And he went to her house, and there's this tree down that's been in front of their house forever, and he cut up some pieces, threw it to go in the burn pile, being neighborly. She comes over and yells at me, thinking I was the person that did that, saying that she was saving that wood for her fire, and it was bad wood. And so she goes on this little tirade about how people shouldn't be on her property and all this stuff, and I'm just like, whatever. She asked my name. I say, my name is Brian, and she goes, Ron? I go, yeah, Ron. So, there was the level of interest I had in the conversation. And then, of course, my wife comes out trying to see what's going on, and she introduces herself, and this is the best part of the story. She goes, yes, my name is whatever. I can't even remember what her name is either. And she goes, so Anita went to shake her hand, and she goes, no, I'm a doctor. And kind of like elbow bumps, like COVID elbow bump, 2020, 4 years ago. Okay. So my wife looks at her and goes, oh, that's funny. I work at the hospital too. Which hospital do you work at? What kind of doctor are you? Oh, well, I'm a doctor of acupuncture. So we just, so we lost it. So she was kind of a Karen in the States, seems to be a little Karen-y, and she is a doctor. But then as soon as my wife called her out, then she was a nurse, and then she kind of just dropped her profession. And then we looked her up online, and she's got a doctorate in Eastern medicine acupuncture. So that was a fun story.
There you go. Did you give the wood back?
The neighbor did return the wood.
Did he?
I told him to drop it right back in the ditch where he got it, but he actually put it on our wood pile because he's a much nicer human than I am. But I would have just gone and just pushed it right back where it was, but he's nicer than I am. So, c'est la vie. I have Green River as my special guest this week. Bourbon, a young bourbon. They just restarted the Green River distillery. So this is kind of their first batches coming out. Low end bourbon, really a great starter whiskey for those that are in the States. Very good bourbon. Price points right around $30 max. So it's a good entry bourbon. And again, the beauty of Green River is it's in our UWC battle this week against Green Spot. So it'll be a green with envy battle.
Wow. That's a pretty big fight for Green River.
It's a very big fight.
Yeah.
But Elijah Craig just had our first TKO. It knocked out Bullet hard. Bullet came into the ring and got flattened. But, you know, hey, it's part of life.
Of course it is.
So I spare no expense. I've actually created a presentation board.
It's almost readable.
Oh, man, too much light. Sorry. I could play around with the lights, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to talk about it. So our last conversation, we talked about how bad the PGA Tour is, how bad the Live Tour is. It's really hard to watch. It kind of is, just because there's just not enough excitement. So what I have come up with is a plan that remakes the PGA Tour into very watchable. And also we'll start to elevate the second tier, the Corn Ferry Tour as well. So in honor of Make America Great Again, it's just funny, make the PGA Tour watchable. Whatever, okay. It's not as good as MAGA, I guess, but you know, I have to work on that. I don't have a marketing department. All right, so what I've done is I've actually stolen from the three biggest sports we have in the US. NASCAR, or at least in the South, NFL, and NBA basketball. So the golf season turns into an 18-week season. Less is more, right? Right now we have 38 tournaments on the PGA Tour. Bore fest, because only half of those are actually played by the big boys. And some version, screw that. We're going 18 weeks. Every match matters. Big money. So we're going 18 weeks, and the season starts at the Masters. First event of the year is the Masters. Now that gives a week or two. You can do some play-in events. You can do the par 3. You can really build up the Masters. But again, this is kind of stealing from NASCAR, taking the biggest event of the year and putting it as the very first event of the year. So the golf season starts in April, and we'll basically through the 18 weeks, and the playoffs will run till about November. So basically it's about a 6 to 7 month season, but actually gives the tour a break. And then you can run some funny money games and stuff in the distance. But so the season starts at the Masters in April, and they're on 2 weeks, off a week. So you play 2 weeks, they get a week off, and then they play 2 weeks, week off, 2 weeks, week off. And in that week off, here's the cool part, that the Corn Ferry will bounce opposite of them. So all the events that we're cutting on the PGA Tour, and I hope the DP Tour will do something similar, and I'll tell you why at the end. But as we cut events on the PGA Tour, those events become big dollar Corn Ferry Tours. And they fall in between the weeks off. So now we can start to elevate the next generation that is going to be filtering into the PGA Tour. We start creating those stories and we put money behind it. But as the season wears on, that Corn Ferry feed will actually get a chance at the PGA Tour. And we'll talk about that. And again, that's pretty much it. So it's an 18-week season. The Corn Ferry is going to be playing. And
how many players
at week 9,
yeah. How many players per field?
120.
120.
120. We're going to keep everything at a 120.
Straight up stroke play is normal, 4-round stroke play.
Yep, PGA, normal event. The majors will just be one of the 18 events throughout the season, and then we'll have a playoff season at the end. But I think what's really cool, again, you give them all a week off, so they play 2, they're a week off, they play 2, a week off. Everybody has to show, because what we're going to talk about is at the mid-season, and we're going to steal this from the NBA, at the mid-season, we're going to have a tournament. So if you're in the top 100 by points and money, you get that week off. But after the 9th event, there's going to be a playoff. If you're in the bottom 20, you're going to play that week, and then the top 20 from Corn Ferry is going to come in, and then the Latin American Tour, the Asian Tour, all the different tours, and they're going to play it off. And then the top 10 of that field replaces the bottom 10 that didn't make the top 10 of that event. So we're just going to take 10 people and just freaking kick them out. You're out. You're not playing well enough. You're at 110 to 120. these Corn Ferry guys are playing really well. We're going to kick you out. And they fall back into the Corn Ferry Tour, and that group elevates and goes plays. Now, they only have 9 weeks to make money and try to make the big event, but hey, 9 weeks is a chance. And again, the beauty is every week there's something important going on. It's just not, I hate to say it, the Myrtle Beach Classic, the Puerto Rican, whatever, you know, there's so many events that just are not watchable anymore. So let's shrink this down and make it better. So we're gonna have a mid-season kind of kickoff, kind of change things around, and then we're gonna go to the mid-season playoff, bring excitement. You can kind of build that up, and then we're gonna go to the end of the season playoff. At the end of the 18 weeks, if you're in the top 50, you're in. You're gonna have a week off before the playoff starts. You're gonna have a play-in event, so you're gonna take everybody from the 50 out and the top 30 from Corn Ferry, put them in one event, the top 10 gets in. And if you get into that event, you get your card for next year. So we'll take the top 60, and then we'll play off for the other 60 spots as the playoffs go on. But again, always having a chance to play your way back into the PGA Tour, bring in flesh, bring in new stories, but again, make every event important. And then we go into a wild card, so we go 4 weeks of playoffs. For the first event, we play all 60 plus the play-in people. So you got 60 in, top 10. So the first week we basically go from 60 players to 12. So if you finish in the top 12, you move on to the match play situation. If you don't finish inside of the top 12, your season's over. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take the best 12 of the 60, and then we're going to go into a match play situation, 12, 6, 4, 2, and then 1. But we'll have off weeks while they're playing. And then what we're going to do is take all those people and play for the other cards. So every week, here's another event, people trying to create 10, 20 spots. Here's another week, top 20 gets in. So always playing for something to earn your card. And then you have your playoff. And at the very end of the season, if you're in that top 60, you automatically earn your card. You have your playoffs. Then we know the field is actually set by November. We know exactly who the top 120 are going in the next season, and it starts again in April. And we just keep running. But here's the cool part. If the DP Tour does something similar, what we do is at the end of the year, the top 10 from each tour, European Tour, the DP Tour, and the American Tour, the PGA Tour, they will come together in February, and we're going to do it off the American schedule just because the NFL is so huge in the States. If you try to compete with the NFL, you die. Gareth has been here for NFL games. He understands the nuttiness of the NFL in America. But there's a week in between the Super Bowl and the playoffs. You put basically a Ryder Cup style event mid-February against the DP Tour top 10 versus the American top 10. The number one play in the world gets to pick 2 players to fill out the team, and you run a Ryder Cup team. You run that in between the NFL, then you're off, and then April comes about, Master starts up, and you roll again. Brilliant. Solved.
That's it, done. Now,
that's pretty good though, isn't it? For like an hour.
What you didn't do is give them all the rings at the end. They get rings, right? They're supposed to get the Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. No, we'll come up with something bigger than a ring. Well, you know, it's golf. We'll come up with something inappropriate. But no, but to me, you know, the more I think about it, the problem with, I would even say European Tour and even Live Tour, they're all trying to put so much stuff into television to get the television dollar. I get it. But again, if you would condense, make every event important, make every event, everyone has to be there. Because if not, you're going to make it painful. If you skip an event, you're going to lose just a ton of points. So you force them to play in the events. You're giving them mandatory weeks off and make every event count. I mean, I don't know how that doesn't work.
And you know, Brian, on the Fuel channel, for those of you who haven't tuned into Fuel, this is an amazing channel we have that covers all aspects of golf and performance. I've spoken about this thing before, the phenomenon called repetition suppression, where the more your brain and nervous system are exposed to something, the less attention they will give to it, because at a certain point in time, we'll go, that's not important. Seen this before, figured it out. I always said as a kid, like, we live to watch. Like this evening, we've got what's called the Sunday game, which is the highlights of all the Gaelic football and hurling over the weekend. That is sacrosanct, right? Because that's the only way you can see it historically. when you have more and more live events, which to be fair to our organization in Ireland, the GAA, they haven't gone down that route because they own their own sport. They're very
Yeah.
controlling as to what is released and not. There is genuine excitement. I mean, you go to Donegal the last 3 weeks. Are you going to the game? Are you going to the game? This kind of stuff. And yeah, where are you going to watch it and all that? And I think what you're saying is right. We need to see less, but what we see therefore has to be of significance.
No, I agree. I think, and I hate to say it, American football is the was created for television. It was the first major sport that was really designed around television because it hit its heyday right when the TV market. So they created that entire sport the way it kind of runs in spurts, so you can fill in commercials and it is perfectly designed for television as a TV show. But where they were brilliant is they kept it plays every weekend. Now they've expanded it to like Monday nights and Thursday nights, and so they've added a little bit. But every week, man, in the States, if you look at the numbers of all the major broadcasting networks in the US, number 1 to about number 30 are all NFL games.
Wow.
The most watched television in America. It's not even close. There's not a single, maybe like the Grammys or something big event might sneak in, but like the Masters, the Major League Baseball World Series, none of those events even sniff a regular season football game. That's important, but not super duper important. But so again, but where the NFL was brilliant is they said, hey, we got, they moved it to 17 weeks. We have 17 weeks. Every game matters, right? Every game matters because if you lose, you lose 2 or 3, man, your season's over. So it puts eyeballs on it. And again, it just gives the viewer a reason to go watch. Right now, it's just noise. It's like Charlotte's going on. It's one of the signature big events. I was talking to I actually had a phone call with a bunch of buddies. It's like, who's been watching the golf? And they're all like, yeah, no, not. And this is one of the big events. This is
Yeah.
one of here's our signature. We're going to compete with Live Tour. Nobody watches it. Nobody cares because there's no importance. And we talked about this when I was in Ireland last. It's an individual game. You've got to highlight the individual. The problem is Tiger left. They've been trying to replace Tiger now for 10 years. It's going to be Jordan Spieth. It's going to be Justin Thomas. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. It's going to be Sergio. It's none of them, right? The problem is, again, an individual sport. So again, I think what you do is you open up that Corn Ferry piece and you start highlighting the guys that are working their tails and trying to make it. Give them a brand, give them a platform. And that's probably where you're going to see the next Tiger Woods come from. That's where you're going to see the next Scotty Scheffler, these guys that are fighting through the ranks and always giving them opportunities. Basically, what the PGA Tour did is they used to allow you to play in and earn a card, and they've just kind of hoarded and said, no, we're going to control who comes in. Boring, right? Make these guys at 110 going, oh God, if I don't make top 60 in this next event, there's no chance in heck I'm going to stay in this. How exciting is that? How good of a storyline is that?
Oh yeah.
Follow that guy around, follow those guys around all day and see what they like. I mean, it's fascinating what you could do with this and actually create a story, but they won't. They'll keep doing what they're doing and be mediocre. But I'm going to hashtag this.
There's a quote often attributed to Einstein, and I've never actually found any concrete evidence that he uttered these words. So I'm going to say this is a fabricated quote that's often attributed to Einstein, but it goes like this: in seeking to protect that which you have, you will ultimately ensure its destruction.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
the
think
PGA Tour.
what we're seeing right now is the PGA Tour seeking to be, we don't change. We are what we are. Hold your position. The Spartan movie is great, but the 300 dudes got absolutely decimated at the end.
They do die.
Right? They held.
All through.
So I think of this now, and any major corporations that were slow to change, we look at, Kodak comes to mind, Chrysler come to mind, obvious examples, where we are what we are, and we will protect what we have at all costs. You're forgetting to grow, you're forgetting to morph, you're forgetting to be adaptive. And I think that will come at huge detriment, and not necessarily in the long run this time around. This could be very much in the short run. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of my little dram here because I got to jump on another call momentarily. But
Yeah.
I am sipping upon Irishman. I said it is the Saint Lucia rum barrel. And
Is that the green label?
yeah, It's the green label.
You can find that in the States very easy.
So it runs about, I'm checked here, it runs 65 euros here. It's probably about 75 bucks in the States, I'm guessing, or 65 bucks. It's got to be a pretty similar price. This is really nice, but there's a caveat, which is this is a whiskey I'd probably have a shot of, or a glass of, or a nip of, because it is actually quite sweet.
Yes.
And that's great. But I don't feel, if you and I were doing a little tour, selflessly touring somewhere on behalf of Golf Cask, that we would keep reverting back to this one as a go-to pour. Whereas you would do that with Green Spot, for example.
Yes.
So this is certainly very interesting, very nice. You're getting a lot of kind of tropical stuff and spices. Yeah. It's good that way. I would recommend this a curiosity pour, if nothing else, if you're out and about and somebody does it by the glass or by the shot.
Yeah, and Green River for me, again, this is a great entry. If you look here, I'm getting ready to do a special on 3 bourbons you must have or must try to start your bourbon journey. Green River would be one. I have Wild Turkey 101 and Evan Williams Bottle and Bonded. So $20, $20, $30. Very low-end bourbons, but can stand on their own. Don't have the complexities as we start getting up the shelves, but they can stand on their own and be drank neat, as well as make great cocktails and things like that. But again, great entry bottles, and also great bottles to have in your barrel, so you can actually make cocktails from them as you have friends come over that might not like whiskey or starting their whiskey journey. So I'll be doing a video on that this week on the 3 bourbons you have to have as you're starting your journey inside of whiskey. That's all I got. Anything you want to close on there, G-Mac?
I'm gonna go and finish this off in appreciation of Donegal's amazing victory in the Ulster, the Celtic Anglo Cup, to the Ulster final champions, Sláinte.